Hi everybody, it's Miss Lisa from the St. Paris Public Library. Welcome to a snow day. Yay, you get a snow day. That means I get to stay home and work and have fun. So we're going to do a couple of STEM activities today. I'm going to do one for the younger kids, and then we're going to do one for the older kids. I'm also going to attach a couple links to the video for books that you can, anytime stories that you guys can locate on YouTube that you may have already listened to them, but some of you may have not. There's a very interesting book about snowflakes and the science of snowflakes. So for our younger kids today, we're going to need some supplies. Let me move my water bottle because that's not part of it. Okay, so if you have one child, it's not going to be a big deal. You just need a container. I'm going to use a mason jar because I have a lot of them. And you need to be able to put a lid on your container. So if you don't have a mason jar or something like that, you could use a cup. I don't recommend using a glass because you are going to pack it with snow, and so pushing and packing into the glass, you don't want it to break and have anybody get hurt. But you can use a cup. I'm choosing to use these because if you have something that you can see through as the snow melts, it's a lot better. If you have multiple children, you want to have the containers be as close to the same size as you can get. That way they can all each have their own, and they can watch how the snow melts. You're also going to need a bowl, or you could do it in the sink. If you want to do it in the sink, you can do that. And a couple of paper towels. I just have 2 paper towels here that I'm going to use to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to fill our container. We're going to pack it as hard as we can. That means put as much snow in it as possible so that our container is full. Okay, I braved the cold, made my glasses fog up. I filled up my container, my jar, with snow. You want to try to get clean snow, okay? So scraping it off the top and not getting it down on the bottom on the ground. Once you pack it in there, if you can see, mine is packed like super tight. Then you're going to put your lid on there. You can talk to your kids about why you want to cover it before it melts. And you can talk a little bit about evaporation, that the snow and the air and the temperature will cause the water, which is snow, to evaporate. So we want to put the lid on it so we can see exactly how much water this snow will make. So now we're going to let this sit. Your kids can watch it melt all day. If it takes a long time for it to melt, you might set it closer to like a heat register or wherever your heat is. Like if you have a fireplace or something, you might want to set it a little bit closer to that and it'll melt a little bit faster. But otherwise, we're going to wait until our liquid or our snow turns into a liquid. Now, you can do a couple different things here. You can just watch it melt, or you can estimate how much water do you think that this much snow is going to make in this jar. You can take a Sharpie and put a line on there, put a piece of tape on there or something. It's condensating on the outside of the glass jar. You can talk about condensation. What is condensation? Why is it condensating? Because the inside of the jar is colder than the outside of the jar, and it makes the jar condensate or sweat. You can talk a little bit about that. There's lots of different things you can do. And then we're going to let our snow melt and see how much water we get from this amount of snow. Okay, so don't mind my nappy hair because I've been putting my outdoor stuff on and off, okay? So all of the snow has now melted. Now, in my jar, because my jar is glass, I can actually see some of the sediment or some of the dirt in the snow. Now, there's some bigger pieces I'm pretty sure I picked up off the sidewalk. So what we're going to do, we're going to strain the water so we can actually see how much dirt is in the snow. Now, if I look straight down in it, I can see the sediment in it. I'm going to try to take a close-up picture of that. Now, I don't know how well you can see it, but if you look straight down into the center of my jar, can you see the sediment that's down in the bottom of the jar? It's like little bitty flecks of dirt. That is the beginning of your snowflake. That's pretty cool, isn't it? That you can see the little grit piece of dust or dirt particle that actually was the beginning of your snowflake. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna strain the water. Now I have like a super fine strainer that I could probably pour the water into to do this, but you guys might not have one like that. So I am gonna use the paper towel, okay? So I'm gonna do it really slowly because I don't wanna make a mess. So this might be something you could do in the sink to let your kids do it if your kids are a little bit bigger. So I'm just gonna pour the top part of my water off a little bit because I had some floaty leaves in there. Now I'm gonna pour the rest of the water. Oh, look, I'm already making a mess. So I'm gonna pour the rest of the water, and I wanna pour it on top of the paper towel so that as it goes down, the dirt particles will stick to the paper towel. So now I have part of the paper towel wet, so I'm gonna hold it like a cup in my hand so it cups it. Oh, I'm already starting to see some of it. Okay, I'm already starting to see some of the particles on the paper towel. I want to cup it like this so that the liquid sits and filters through the paper towel. Can you see some of these lighter flecks? I don't know if you can see that or not. Now, if you look in the bottom of my jar, I have a whole bunch of stuff, so I'm going to swirl it around and see if I can't get most of it to come out. There's quite a bit still in there. So I'm going to pour a little bit more of my liquid back in there, swish it around a little bit better, and then pour it out really quickly and make a big mess. Now, you can see all of the small particles of dirt. This was the very beginning of your snowflake. You can talk to your kids about that, how the particle picks up water in the atmosphere, and it's so much colder above the clouds that the particle gets a little ice crystal that forms around the outside of it. And then as it comes through the clouds, the crystals attach to other crystals, and that's what creates the snowflake. So this is very interesting. It also might keep your kids from eating snow. I don't know. This was the project to do with the younger kids. You can talk about so many different things. And like I said, I attached a really good link to a YouTube book that I've read online previously about snowflakes and how they're created in the atmosphere. And this is a wonderful project and science activity for your younger kids. So we're going to set this aside, and I've created a rather large water mess, so I'm going to clean that up before I move on. And then we're going to work on our project for our older kids. Okay, we're moving on to our project for our older kids. So this is my stick that I went out in the yard and got. I haven't cut it yet, so I left it in one big piece, but it's a pretty sturdy stick, so I don't have to worry about it breaking or bending over if the ice gets really heavy, because I'm not really sure how it's going to work out. So I'm going to cut it in half, or close to half, right there. Now you can break it or whatever, but I have pretty good pruning shears, so I'm going to cut mine in half. You need a container, a jar. You could use this jar if you want to just, if this is what you have. I suggest a taller container, like maybe a vase or a quart jar. I had this ginormous mug I found in there. It was like super heavy. So who knows? It's got a lot of flies in it. So I don't know how long I've had this jar, but we're going to use this because it's heavy like that. So we're going to put the ends in here. Let's find the biggest end. Yeah, like this. And what we want to do is we want to create a V with our sticks. We need some yarn or string, and we're going to tie it across here we're going to tie it across here to make a string that goes between them like that, okay? So we just need a sort of a little piece. Let me see if this will cut this, because I didn't bring myself any scissors. There. So we're going to tie one side to this one, and we want it to be kind of tight, because I think that the water, when it freezes on there, it's going to pull on the string. So I'm going to tie it up kind of high. I think I might wrap it around a couple times since I have a pretty long string, since I cut a big piece, and then I'll tie it. That way maybe it'll be a little bit sturdier when the ice starts to pull on it. Okay. by the way, we're going to make our own icicles is what we're doing. That's the project we're doing. Okay, so I've tied my string on there like that so that the string is across. Now, you can use water. We need water, colored water, all right? So if you don't have, I have these. I don't know if you follow me online or not, but I made watercolors last summer during COVID shutdown, and we had projects online with leftover markers, recycled markers, and warm water. And I still have some of this because I watercolor paint with it. So I'm using the primary colors. That way when the water drips together, it will blend the colors, and so they'll be all different colors. If you don't have any of this watercolor stuff like we did last year, you can just use regular water with food coloring. Now, I never have red food coloring for some reason, so I have yellow and blue. Two colors that we never use hardly when we make cookies or icing or anything. So, but you want it to be kind of thicker. Like, you don't want it to be runny water because then the color may not show up as well. Okay, so that's what you're going to need. You're going to need watercolors or colored water, 2 sticks with a string tied across the top in a container that will hold them tight. Now, I'm thinking that I might actually put a piece of duct tape on each side of these sticks to keep them from pulling together, or maybe because it's like a wind tunnel where I live, so that way it'll keep the wind from blowing them. So I'm gonna attach these to the container a little bit, and then we're gonna go outside. So I'm outside, and I brought my jar out with the sticks in it. Now listen, this liquid has food coloring in it, so don't set it on anything that you are going to be concerned about it getting color on, especially if you're using the food coloring. But even my watercolor stuff, they're markers, so especially the red one will stain. Okay, so what we're going to do, you're going to have to come out in and out several times out of the house to be able to do this. Make sure you can see me. Okay, so I set it in my front yard because it's out of the wind a little bit more. And I'm going to start with red. So I'm going to take the lid off of my coloring. See, it's already stained in my hands. Okay, now you can use a teaspoon, or an eyedropper would be the best if you have an old eyedropper that you don't want to use anymore. But I don't. But I did find one of these teaspoon measuring spoons, so I'm going to use one of those, and I'm just going to put some of the coloring in there, just a little bit. Okay, what you're going to do is you need to wet your string all along. Now this is going to take a lot, and you're going to have to come in and out all day long, driving your mom crazy, dragging snow in and out. So put it close to a doorway so that you can go in and out and do this. Okay, you can get your stick wet too, because basically what it's going to do is it's going to freeze on there, and as it freezes, it's going to create icicles. But each time you come out, it's going to freeze a little bit more and a little bit more. So you want to get your string nice and wet, and if you notice, it's making a giant mess in the snow. Okay, so I'm just going to get it really good and wet, and then I'm going to come out. I don't know, it's pretty cold out, so it shouldn't take it too long to freeze. Don't leave your watercolor outside because it will freeze out here as well. So you want to make sure you're taking it in and out. And then I'm going to come out and add to it throughout the day until it starts to build up on itself. Now, you want to put your liquid in the refrigerator so that your liquid stays cold, but don't leave it outside because it will freeze. If it's colder, when you bring it out and you add it to your liquid that's already frozen, it won't melt it. That way it'll stay colder, and then it will freeze a lot faster. Okay, so I want you to do this throughout the day, and then be sure and send me a picture and let me know how yours turns out, and I'll do the same for you. Have a great day today. Happy snow day.